Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm back today with one of my favorite human beings on the planet, Goose. Welcome, Goose. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, well, I'm so honored that I was lucky enough to meet you on accident that day and was drawn to talk to you. And we've been in contact ever since. So I feel very blessed. I wanted to share you with the whole world. So would you mind sharing with us a little bit about your background, your growing up, and then your spiritual path?
Sure. And it is no accident that we meet. It's all divine intervention taking care of us. That's how we meet. And so, growing up as a child in Santa Ana, California, and my mother and her six siblings were all into religion, spiritualism, but mostly religion for a while. They were always looking for beloved Jesus to return to earth and take them up the stairs to a heavenly place. But I had an uncle that said one day to me when I was in my late teens, "You want to go on a trip? Let's go to Mount Shasta and see what it's like." So I went to Mount Shasta with him, and he knew a lady in Mount Shasta called Nola, and she was the lady of the mountain. She was very much into deeper spiritualism. And so we went to her house, and at her house, she had about 15 people sitting in the living room, and she says, "We're going to do a little meditation prayer before I start talking." And she said, "So close your eyes and just meditate with me." Well, as the 15 people or so were closing their eyes, I heard this whirling, whirling noise, and I opened up my eyes and I saw with my eyes around the top of each person's head would come a whirlwind, like kind of a white whirlwind going around each person's head. And I thought, I wonder what it's going to do when it comes to me. This is strange. And so it came to me and it felt very nice. There was nothing real exciting about it. And I went on around the room and she's at the end, then she says, the meditation was over and she says, "Anyone feel anything?" And I went, "Well, I saw this white whirling thing go around to each person's head." And she says, "Oh, the masters, the masters." And that then she talked about the master of the mountain and all, and nothing more came out of that. We went on our way and everything, but I started then having dreams of being inside Mount Shasta. I
Mhm.
have no idea what was going on, but I remember walking out through this long, long tunnel and then coming back into my body. And that happened to me a couple of times. Then my uncle became interested in Saint Germain, and he had all of the books on Saint Germain. And I started reading them and could not put them down because they went deeper into spirituality. And an aunt of mine, his sister, gave me a book on Siddhartha.
Mhm.
And then that was wonderful. It's like I just knew these people. I felt very comfortable. It was nothing that was frightening for me. It was like, it's another reality, actually. We have earth reality, and where I know that everything is not permanent. The
Mhm.
only thing that's permanent is that nothing is permanent. And it's like, wow, this is so exciting. I kept reading and reading all the books that I could. And when we were in Mount Shasta, then another time, we went to the bookstore, my uncle and I found a picture of Babaji, an 8 by 10. And I saw him along with these other masters. And I thought, oh, I know him. Who is this guy? Who is he? Who is he? I know him. Oh, he's so beautiful. He's the most wonderful looking person.
So
So
good looking.
yes, I took the picture home, of course, and I still have it on my altar, a big 8 by 10 of him. And then I started reading every single book I could on Babaji because that was just like, I couldn't believe this, that he was real, real. He was very real to me. And my spiritual path then just started opening up more and more, and interesting things would happen. I would had been to India twice to see another master. And um, it was just such a wonderful experience. People said to me, "Well, how many times have you been to India?" I said, "Well, this is my first time." I was so comfortable there. And then I believed, of course, in reincarnation and those kinds of things. And then I started having visions, just visions of other beings that I do not know who they are or what, but I would be in another dimension. Um, when my son was born, he was 8 months old, and I had him in, I was getting a divorce, and I had him in my room in his bassinet, and I pulled my covers up and I left my body looking at myself pulling my covers up. And I went straight to Shirdi Sai Baba.
Mhm.
And I begged him, absolutely begged him not to return back into my body. I did not want to come back to this earth life. And he said, "Baby, baby, baby, no, 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 you have to go back. You have to go back." Oh, no, no, no. And I just hung on to his feet saying, "I don't want to go. I don't want to go back. It's beautiful here. I like it. I want to stay here forever." "No, you have to go back." And then I came back into my body and carried on with life and did what I had to do and was a mother and working and this and that. And then a few years later, I had a sister and she had cancer. And she only lived, she was 12 years old and she lived for 6 months and passed away. And when she passed away, she came to me that night and she says, "Oh, look, Joan, you don't die. You don't die." And I said, "Oh, Marlene, I know that. Can I touch your arm? Because I want to feel your arm." So she put her arm out so that I could touch it and feel it. And then she looked at me and kind of dipped her head and she twinkled off into these billions of lights and
Wow.
then just went on down into this long tunnel and disappeared. But I just knew. So then I, I just knew that I was on a right path of somewhere, something deeper than what I was taught. Because I went to the Lutheran school and all, and if you were naughty, you'd burn for hell in hell forever. It's like, but he's an all-loving God. How can this be? So I questioned that, and it just turned into all kinds of visions that I've had and experiences, adventures, I call them,
Mhm.
learning adventures. Because we are here to learn to love, and that God is in every single person and item on the planet. There's
Mhm.
nothing where He's not. He's not. He's every single person. And I've had people in my life who could not stand me, who were mean, ornery, terrible, negative people.
Mhm.
And yet to be able to know that they have a speck of God inside of them makes you think differently.
Mhm.
You start to look at things in a different way, like, what am I to learn from this person who is so negative towards me and all? And can I acknowledge that they're thinking the way they need to think for them, and I'm thinking my way for me, and just allow that to go, let them speak their points, and I stand up for what I think is right for me always, but to not argue with people
Mhm.
and treat them with disrespect, but always be respectful of people. So there's my beginning, and now at 82, almost 83, it's like, okay, I'm beginning to feel the presence of this great divine personage inside of me now, and that I can go about daily life having the ups and downs, illnesses, and all kinds of family things going on, and still be calm inside because I know they have a spark of the divine inside of them too. And I am here to spread love and respect and have compassion.
Mhm.
There you go.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Just like the way you went to Mount Shasta and how your uncle took you there. And your uncle was your mom's side or your dad's side
My
uncle?
mom's side, my mother's side, yes.
Yeah, so that was kind of like probably you guys had a contract before coming to this earth that he would be one of the people that would initiate you.
Absolutely, we did. I was very close to him, and we always spoke spiritualism, and we spoke more about the deeper aspects, the reincarnation and why we're here, and that God is in everything. And yet there is evil that we see and feel and know about. But there are two paths, he would say. There's a light path, Joan, and there's a dark path. Which one do you want to go on? What do you feel like inside of you? And some of the relatives felt the darker side was for them. But we just acknowledged them the way they were and what they had to go through for that. Because I've been on the dark path in other lives, for sure.
We've all done both, right? Like if we're in the
Yes,
light now, we've had dark paths and you're
yes,
right. Like that's a really powerful tool to be able to see the light in people even when they're evil, which is gotten harder for me over the years because I've seen
yes.
so much evil, so much child abuse, so many women, men being beaten. And so it's kind of made me a little bit more hyper vigilant. But what you're saying is correct because when I do see someone that's evil and I see that light in them, I'm able to expand it by focusing on it. Even if they don't change
Yes.
in our presence,
No.
kind of change a little bit,
Do
right? Or
not have you do not have to like the way they are,
Mhm.
but just to be recognize that inside of them there is a spark of divinity that wants to have this particular body of them on a darker side and experience that darkness.
Interesting. So it's not like they're lost. It's like they've chosen this lifetime to be little dark
Yes.
troublemakers.
Yes. And that's what this world is about because we think, well, let's go march for peace, peace, peace. Shouldn't there be peace in the world? But it's not this, the world isn't like that. It's part of the divine's plan to have the opposites and finally to come to the end of it all when you are tapped in the heart by your Sat Guru and say, it's time. You need to know more why you're here. You're here to spread the love of God that is inside of you. Do you want to do it now or do you want to come back and do it again and again and again? So this time I'm saying, I've had it. How do you help me? Because I need to be done with all of this in the correct way. And that is to love, know that he's in everything, having his, his life as a darker human being or a lighter human being or wherever anyone is at. That
Mhm.
spark is in them and he's in control of the plan, which is, I don't think there'll ever be, well, I can't say never because God can do whatever he wants. It's his will. So there could be peace and we have to try. We cannot I can't sit on the front porch with my cup of tea in a rocking chair and say, he's taking care of it. I don't have to do anything. Oh, my. No, 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 no. I have to get my little buns up and do.
Mhm. So it's like, I like that. Like you're saying that gives us peace because we can accept there's evil on the planet, but we still need to do the actions as we're guided to do. Like to kind of go into that, you go and read to children and you dress up so cute. And I'm just so obsessed with how you dress up according to the characters in the book and you read to them. So that's how
Yes.
God is spreading is one of the ways he's spreading it through you.
That is exactly right. And I know that now, but I didn't before when I first started. I was a librarian 30 some years ago, and I thought, gee, kids are very visual. Let me see what I can do to get them excited about reading a book. So I dressed up as, a cowgirl and would read the cowboy book. Whatever I was reading, I was dressed up as that particular character. And it just developed into having me dress up as Mother Goose at the beginning of the school year to introduce the children to Mother Goose, nursery rhymes, and the books in the library. And then each week I would do about, I think there were 27 classes that I would do in the week. And they couldn't wait to come and see how I was dressed and what book I was going to read. And then I'd show them where the book was located in the library. And then I retired from that job, but here where I live in California, I got a job at a place called Storyland, and it is nursery rhyme characters for children 5 years and maybe 8 years to come and play on slides and the old woman in the shoe slide, the three little pigs house, and those kinds of nursery rhymes. And so they hired me, and children come on their field trips from the different school areas. And I had last year 3,000 children that I read stories to. About a 20-minute program where I read the nursery rhymes and talk a little bit about reading. And it's good to practice reading. And, so then I do a few pretend magic tricks. Magic is just tricking your eyes. And then I throw a lot of sparkles around because sparkly fairy dust goes everywhere. Because when you walk on the sparkles, it makes your day magical.
I love
And it makes your heart want to share with everyone. And they just run out, trampling all over the fairy dust that I'm spreading on the ground and have a wonderful time. But it's nice to see they. I was in a classroom a few years ago, and they were special ed children, and there were about 15 of them there, and they were more eighth grade. And the teacher said, "Oh, now, Mother Goose, these children were going to get up and they're walking around and they're just going to do their thing." I said, "I understand, no problem." None of them moved. They sat right there, and the teacher said, "Could you stay all year here?"
Well, I believe it because when I met you that day, everybody was gathering around you too. You just have that kind of a true divine feminine presence, which is all inclusive, right? Like the true divine feminine is like a mother that hugs everybody.
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
I remember at that event, it was the same thing. I was sitting with you. I was lucky to become friends with you that day. And then everybody was coming and gathering around us. And so I felt so lucky and blessed. And so children will sit and focus when they're loved. The reason they don't focus in schools now is because the teachers are just going through the curriculum and they're not really even caring if the children are smiling. They're just like, did you finish your math problem? And of course, the kids are not going to pay attention because they
No,
don't care about math when they're 7 years old.
no.
They care about like a loving presence,
Right,
you coming
right.
and playing with them. So,
Yes, exactly. And playing with them. When I get done doing the presentation, which is about 20 minutes for each classroom, this last week I had a little boy was 3 rows back. He jumped up and ran right to me, and he only came to his arms could only wrap around my hips. He was so tiny, and he just hugged me and said, "I love you, I love you, I love you." Now I just read nursery rhymes and did a few magic tricks and spread the love and talked to them. You really care. You really care. And then all 50 children wanted hugs. So you hug every one of them. And the teachers are going, "Oh my God. Oh." But I love my job that the great divine director has given me because it is spreading love, which we so badly need nowadays. And instead of, children are not really reading, they've got that phone in the hand and they're doing this.
mhm,
And
mhm.
it's like, wait a minute. Your imagination takes you anywhere and you can discover everything using the imagination. And I tell him about Alexander Graham Bell and how he did the telephone with 2 tin cans and listened on a string and used his imagination. So we talk about those kinds of things also for them. And they're very excited to be able to maybe grow up and be engineers and make magic tricks for me or write stories.
I feel like you're planting very important seeds because kids remember these things. People think kids
Yes.
don't remember things, but I remember everything since I was 3. And I remember the teachers like you that would take the extra time to make an effort to like teach me something. And those things stick with me because when you put love and learning together, it's like goes deep into the brain. And that's why 50 of them are coming and hugging you. And
Yes, yes.
why aren't
I went back to the town where I worked this last week. I went back to the town there to visit and everything, and people ran up to me and said, "Oh my God, it's you, Mother Goose. You haven't changed a bit. I want my children to be able to see you and hear you. I'm a mother now." And then one lady says, "I'm a grandmother now." So it does make it, I'm not out to do anything with the ego and make it den and be, I just do what naturally comes inside of my heart
Mhm.
without thinking too much about it. I'm kind of a spontaneous, just do it. When I went for the job interview as a librarian, I thought, you know, they're so visual nowadays. What can I do? So I dressed up with a big fancy dress on and a big hat, with not a hat, but a bow in my hair. And they looked at me and what do you job interview? I went, yes.
Yeah.
And I said, this is what I think children need nowadays. And then they hired me, so that
I
I
love
could
that. I love that.
spread
And I
just,
know that Saint Germain kind of like guiding you because Saint Germain always tells me, like, if you're going to be a teacher, are you going to be a boring one or are you going to dress up and be fun? And so he's all about the character we're going to be as a spiritual healer, teacher, whatever. Like, he's like, you guys got to be fun. Like, you don't want to go up there and just tell people something. It's so boring. So
no,
you
no.
dressing up, I know he's going like, yes, exactly.
Yes, and every job that I've ever had, even before too, banking, I worked in the banking institute, taking people's money at my desk, and oh boy, people and their money. It was very challenging, and yet I could see how they were. And you get this feeling about people and how to treat them and be kind to them. It was just natural inside. Some things you have to work on when people are ornery and nasty and that kind of thing. And you just want to look at them and say, go ahead, mouth off, do your thing. I'm just going to listen and I'll say thank you, bye bye, if I can, because there are very difficult challenges on the spiritual path, but they're not difficult when you understand that He is in every single thing.
That's the
Everything.
click. That's like very
That's it.
important to get that I'm still clicking that. Like it's like logically I know it, but when I like see someone, I can tell they're a child molester or they're beating a man or a
Yes.
woman, I just go like instantly like evil, evil, evil. But then you're saying like, yeah, God is even in there. And but yeah, that's still a little last click for me, I
And
think.
He wants to be evil. He wants that particular body to be evil because I feel the same way. So it is difficult. And yet, just becoming aware of it is all you really need when in those kinds of situations. I mean, I've been to prisons and things like that. I haven't done my Mother Goose in prisons, but you just know that's where they're at, and to have the compassion in your heart and leave it at that. Leave
Just
it
have
at that.
compassion. But doesn't mean we have to hang out with them. But when we're
No.
around them, we can have the compassion. But it's not like we're gonna try to
Yes.
love the murderer to be a nice person. But we
Right.
understand God has like a role for them that they're playing this lifetime.
That's
But
exactly.
but still also do our actions. So I'm gonna keep talking about child sex trafficking, even if there's a divine plan for that to happen. I'm gonna keep spreading light on it and just keep kind of exposing it. But yeah.
Absolutely, because it changes your molecular structure to be thinking positive, and
Mhm.
it takes its time. Sometimes it happens overnight to people, but for me, it's a day, minute, wake up each morning thing where the molecular structure in the whole body is changing to the positive side of things and trying to think everyone. But then your body then changes and people start to feel that
Mhm.
without you saying any words to them. And you don't have to say anything because they are the way they are. Most of the time, you can't
Like that.
say
Let's keep
anything,
it
but
silent.
it changes you. You'll feel this calm peace about going out and spreading the good news about child molesters and helping people and those kinds of things. When I go into a room, sometimes I think, uh-oh. And I have a mantra that I chant and have been doing it for a long time. And I know that it has changed my particular body structure inside. Its DNA, its molecules are changing because people will maybe move away from me.
Yeah.
Good. It's good. And or in a room, then there's something that happens. You can see some joy coming in sometimes, and they're just different.
Yeah,
And
I
you
was really
observe.
impressed with how you handled people because I was watching you all day deal with like hundreds of people and I could see the ones that had the darkness that I was kind of like, oh my God, I can't even handle this. And you were just like, do, 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 do. I was just like, oh my God, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. I was just watching you. So I do think, yeah,
Mhm.
you ooze this kind of like gentle love out of you, but you're saying like with evil, we can say the mantra, ooze that energy out into the room, and then just allow them to kind of go in their little corner, or sometimes they leave, or, something like that, or
Yes.
just be
Just
there and
go away.
receive the healing. Maybe that demon will come out of them and they'll shift.
Yes, yes. Now, I fed homeless people for 14 years up in the other town where I lived, and it was on every Tuesday that I did it, and I had another man that helped me. Now, I went to a church in that town, and
Hold on, it seems like it froze. Okay, so sorry about that. We got cut off. Could you please continue what you were telling us about working with the homeless population?
yes. So for 14 years, myself and another man were feeding homeless people in a park in the town where I used to live. We'd have between 30, 40, 50 people, men and women and children, come to the park. And when it was snowing, we would make the food in our car, and out of the back of the car in the snow, we would be handing out the food. And I noticed that the church where I went, they did not give us money, but they liked that we would feed the homeless. And on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day, no one, of course, would be able to feed them because they're with the family.
Mhm.
So I just thought, no, 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 I can't do that. I
Mhm.
will go and feed them. And I did for those years because it was important, the feeling inside of me that these people who had fallen through the cracks, and I just had this great compassion for them. They would come drunk, higher than kites. They just had all kinds of problems going on, and how they ended up where they were. They couldn't help it. They did not have that knowledge, that strength inside of them to choose something different. And, Jesus has always said, to feed the poor and help those who need help. And we really, really did. We had a crew of about 5 people who would make real homemade food for them and took care of their needs and all of those kinds of things. And that's when I began to have that great feeling inside of me about how people are at where they are at.
Mhm.
Because you knew by talking with them, being friends with them, that they had fallen through the cracks and there was no way out for them. And it was just a very beautiful thing to be able to take care of them like that and give them a good meal on Tuesdays. And so that's what was going on there.
Yes,
Mhm.
I love that. When you talk about it, I feel your heart chakra. It has this like tender, beautiful feeling, and I can feel why you did it and the spirituality that it brought out in you to be of service to them. It flowers your heart as the Divine Mother again. And so every religion does talk about feeding the sick and the poor. Every religion I've studied, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Catholicism, right? All the major religions. But why aren't they all doing that, right?
Right. And I studied all of the religions too. That's interesting that you would say that because I thought, well, and why would we judge anyone?
Mhm.
Thou shalt not judge was the words right out of the mouth of Jesus. And I'm telling you, you know, you just don't know what happens behind the scenes to bring them to where they are at today. And I just had this great feeling and compassion for them all the time. Um, Even where I work now, I have to go through a park where the homeless just are at, and they kind of sleep there once in a while. And I have in my car a little card, and it has a little bit of money in it, and I just bless them and hand that out to them. I can't do anything different. I just can't drive by, and I don't stop and get out of my car. But if they come up by my car and all, I just have something for them because I think ahead like that. I
I
like to think ahead, you
And do you
know.
Do you feel like, because a lot of people watching this might be like, well, maybe I should do that, maybe I shouldn't do that. Could you share about what is karma yoga and what does giving to people actually, how it always blesses us like so much more?
When you have a karma yoga, you receive whatever you put out.
Hmm.
Whatever you put out, and that doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to go and feed them. No, it has to be inside of your heart. It has to be there because God knows everything you're thinking, everything you are doing, everything, every single thing. And when you finally get that into your head, you think, uh-huh. And I don't just go do this just because, oh, well, God's looking at me, I'm being nice. No, 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 no. It's not, I don't do that.
Hmm.
It just has a feeling inside of me. And I know about the karma. And if whatever you put out, you are going to get back threefold, they say, and so that's what's important. It doesn't mean, oh, now I got to go out and do this. No, whatever situation you are in, whatever family God has given you, whatever you have in your daily life with your boss, with whatever, that's what He has given you. Just look at it and try to think, yes, yes, okay. I don't like the way this person's treating me today, and what am I going to do about it? Well, I can't do anything today, but if I am positive when I go back tomorrow and I'm positive and I just smile and maybe say good day or something, it will help that person then to change toward me. And so it's your daily life that is very, very important because God has put you in your space. He's in you. And
For a
it's
reason. Like everywhere we're at, some people think I'm lost, I'm working this job, or I'm doing this whatever, or my family is not perfect, or whatever. But whatever we have is like somehow it's been selected for us. And
And
what
that is because of karma from the past, of which I do not know about, nor do I want to even know about it, because it's like, oh boy, oh man. I've been a rich man, poor man, a beggar man, a thief, and a doctor and a lawyer, a merchant and a chief, and a killer. And that's how it is. This
Mhm.
planet is about. I have had millions of lives, and I know that. I have seen some of my lives during the time of Jesus, Roman soldier kind of thing. And so it's done and over with. Like everything that happens today will be done and over with tomorrow. You can't change it. But in the moment, which way do I want to think inside of me, positive or negative? And your positivity will come back positive for you, and your negativity will go boom and smack you in the face too. And you can let the other person have it and scream at them and tell them what they are and da 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 da. And if you see it in them, you also have it in you.
Mhm.
Because in order to see it, you have to have part of it in you. And
Mhm.
it's hard for us to look at ourselves daily and say, now, look, I didn't do that quite right. Let me think about this today. How can I change it for tomorrow?
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's
Constantly be looking, like if we're seeing in something in people, ask the question, is that a character defect I'm still working on? Is that something I've mastered? Like, why is it sticking out so much in them, some of them? But I would also like to say that like we can't like apply that to everything because like if we notice a child molester, that doesn't mean we're a child molester. But
no,
but if somebody is like for example, I was looking at my friend and I'm like, oh gosh, they're so this way. And then I was like, oh, I'm so that way too. And so in that situation, like I think is very accurate. But like with certain things, I'm not sure if it's exactly everything we see is what we are. But maybe
that's
we've been
exactly right.
though. Maybe I have been a murderer before and I'm able to recognize that, something like that. Because I think then it's kind of
Yeah.
hard for me to kind of deal with.
I have days when I'm like, well, what happened today, Joan? What happened to you today? Man, you've been on a negative streak, and my goodness sakes alive, you were just condemning and judging it. And I think, well, I guess I had to experience that for today. But now tomorrow, Joan, you're going to be a little different. You're going to try and see it more in the now and what is it you can do? Because sometimes I just forget. You just go about business because we've been here doing this.
Yes, yes.
But when you start to know that, have the knowledge to know, oh, wait a minute. I was negative all day yesterday. Oh,
Mm,
but I don't sit around condemning myself. I
Yeah.
have to look at it, but it's hard for us to look at ourselves and say, ugh, because people think, well, I'm not like them. I'm not that way. I'm not that way. Well, we have little incidences once in a while that just bring that out in us, and we have to just really think about it and then try to change it. But if we can't, we can't. We can't.
Absolutely, like in emergencies, like the last 2 months, I've been in the hospital every day with one of my family members, just trying to keep them alive, basically. And there was a few times in the beginning, first few weeks, that I could have like yelled at a few nurses because they were doing a lot of wrong things, putting tubes in the wrong places and blood clots coming out. And I was fully in my dark shadow, like, what are you doing? Save his life. And then I kind of was like, okay, now like I'm gonna try the next day at the hospital going in calmly, even if they're making a mistake, I'm gonna gently correct them, because I was in that emergency state. So yeah, I think that's a good thing to remember as the
Yeah.
energies in the world are gonna get really chaotic starting next week, November 5th. Um, love and light.
But half of the population likes one half and half likes the other half. And it is the will of God, but He's also looking at my mind and who I'm going to really send those positive energies to, because I will do that. I'm doing that.
Yes.
And, we can change, God says you can change destiny, but He needs to know about it.
Oh, interesting. Can you tell us more about that? If we can change destiny, he needs to know about it because there's a lot of cool things I would like to change for the destiny of our world.
But he's already made it that way. I said, no, 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 no. Now, I want to know what you have in your head because it'll help. It'll help. If you show me that you care and you really want the love to encompass, then do it. Don't sit back on the porch with your cup of tea and your rocking chair and say, oh, he's taking care of it all. Uh-uh-uh. Do it. Do it.
So
So
good.
if,
And God likes our suggestions if they come from the heart and we really want to make the world better. He and Divine Mother both go, okay, let's see what this person wants to do. They want to go feed the homeless. We're going to find them the right team. Or if this person wants to read to kids, we're going to give them the opportunity. So God is listening to us, and you're saying that it does impact the world. It's not just like 100%.
absolutely does. Divine Mother has come to me 3 times as a person
Would love to hear this. Yes.
and in my dreams, my visions. And the first time she came to me, a friend of mine up in the state of Washington was having her two Murtis. What do you do when the divine comes into them?
Mhm.
Pranapatishta.
Mm.
And so that night in a vision, I saw Lakshmi and Dinabandhu, who were going to be coming into these Murtis and be in the temple. And she was absolutely stunning and beautiful. She looked like a I kept looking at her skin and wondering what kind of makeup does she use? The most beautiful eyes, though. And she was pointed straight head,
Mhm.
looking at the divine, not paying any attention to me or anything, just looking straight ahead. She had like an arrow going straight to God because she had a duty to do. And when he invoked the Pranapatishta for the deities, she knew what her duty was to go in and be part of that. And it's like, okay. Then last year she came, or actually several months ago, she came to me and she was absolutely beautiful. You can't describe, you don't have earth words for what she is. And she put her hands right here on my heart area and did some sort of a blessing for me.
Mm.
Then a couple months later, I was diagnosed with cancer of the breast. And then I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder what she did. So then, just before my operation, she came to me and with my Sat Guru standing by her, and she had the most wonderful fragrance. The smell is not on this earth, and the most beautiful gown on. It's a color we don't have, but it's a little bit like your shawl in the background. That's way,
Kind of.
yeah. And
Oh,
and she was just divine, but the fragrance, I didn't want to leave her. I did not want to leave her. but I had to come back into the body and go through. And she was with me the whole time because when I had my operation in May, I stayed in the hospital overnight, and through the night, the nurse would come and say, "What's your pain level?" I said, "I don't have any pain." "Oh, okay." 2 o'clock. "What's your pain level?" "I don't have any pain." "What's your pain level at 4?" "I don't have any pain." Somehow she took care of, there was no pain whatsoever for me, none. Now my body had to heal and do all of those things, and I didn't have to have chemo, but I had to have radiation for 6 weeks, and that burned you alive practically. But she was right there. And I had this calmness inside of me that she gave me. And I was thanking her continually. Every day I was thinking of her because she was there for that.
She's very palpable during physical, earthly problems, is what I've noticed. Like she'll literally appear in a human and just save you. And
Yes.
just amazing how she gave you that peace, how she took away the
Mhm.
pain. Because I don't think people realize how much influence Divine Mother has on the planet. Because God has given her all the powers.
That's it.
And
He's
some
given.
stories, Kali was the creator of the universe, the mother. Then some stories is Krishna. So it's interesting how she told me once Krishna is my son. And then
Yes.
Krishna tells me I created her. So I'm like, which of you guys are so silly? Like, which one is?
Well, he's all of it. But Carly came to me many years ago,
Oh, let's
and
talk about
she
that.
gave me, I was sleeping in a friend's house down in Southern California, and she had a Murti of a big, 4 foot tall Murti of Collie. And I loved her right from the beginning. And she was just so beautiful. And I was sleeping in the room with Collie. And other people, "No, no, 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 she's bad. She's black.
I'm scared of her.
I'm not afraid of her at all. And, today I'm not. And she showed me her face, her eyes. I just went right into her eyes and just boom. I just, and that doesn't leave because you think about that and you bring that back to you. When those experiences happen, you bring it back to you. But Divine Mother is,
Very much.
she's, we twirl around the sun and we don't fall to the bottom of anywhere.
Mm. It's
Think
her
about that.
magnetic, like it's like the earth's energy is her protecting us on the earth as much.
Exactly. Exactly. She's right there. And boy, what a fragrance. What perfume she wears.
Yeah, I wonder, like we gotta ask her, is it jasmine? Is it sandalwood? What's she mixing? It's some kind of a heavenly realm perfume.
Now, I was going to a chiropractor about 7 or 8 years ago, and her room number was 108, which is a spiritual number, 108. So the chiropractor one day said to me, she says, you know that we don't allow you to wear perfume when you come here to have your thing done. She says, but you have this perfume that I smell every time you come in here. And I said, I don't have any perfume on. I don't wear perfume. Tell me, what does it smell like? She says, thousands of flowers and rose petals. It just stays. I said, okay, tell me when I come in that it's happening. And she says, okay. So I would go each week. Here it is again. I says, and how long does it stay in your office where you're doing your chiropractic business? She says, I get through a patient and a half, about 1.5 hours it stays.
Wow.
Now, that's, and I'm,
That means it's in your aura. I mean, you went there, you felt that energy, and now it's a part of your essence. And I
but
always,
I don't smell it. I don't smell it. And my daughter-in-law, we were driving down to LA, and she says, what's that perfume you have on? I said, I'm not wearing any. It's the Divine Mother, my site guru. Oh, she says, wow. Oh, she says, it just smells like bouquets of flowers. I said, okay, but I don't smell it, and it's not there. Not other people haven't said anything more, but the chiropractor did.
well, I believe it that it's like it's in your aura, and depending on people's psychic abilities, they're gonna pick up different things in you. Like for me, I was just drawn to you. I'm like, she's the most pure feminine energy I can feel in here. You were so pure, and I'm so picky with feminine energy because I have really high standards for women,
Mhm.
let's just say.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
But for you, I was just like, yes, I just wanted to hug you, squeeze you, just like hold you. And then the whole day you were taking care of me and you made sure I had such a wonderful time. And then we went and had dinner with your friends. And
It's
that was a
fun.
blessing by the guru, I think, like
Yes.
all of us sitting and talking about that.
Yes.
Did you want to
Yes.
share about that, about Satguru and what that has meant for you? And because that's where we met. We met at an event for him.
Okay. So my Sadhguru is Paramahansa Sri Swami Vishwananda, and he is has an ashram in Germany where you can go to visit. But he has ashrams all over the world now. A couple in India, all over in like Slovenia, Latvia, um, Asia, Brazil. And I was always looking for something spirit. When I'm looking for something spiritual, I just wanted to go deeper. So I had a dream, and this man came to me as an American Indian chief. And I woke up from sat up in my bed, and there he was standing right on the side of my bed. He had full feathered headdress on and all the full gown of an Indian chief. He had a gold necklace around his neck with a round medallion that had Sanskrit words on it, but I don't know what they meant. He pointed his fingers to this medallion, had me look at it. I sat there on the edge of my bed looking at it. And then I saw in his hand was a ruby red uh, ring, emerald. No, not an emerald, but a ruby. And then I looked up into his eyes. And you don't forget when your Satguru looks at you and he says, finally. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me and had a slight smile, and I melted like butter. I rolled back down into the bed, and then two beings came and they massaged my feet to ground me. They had the most beautiful gowns on. Oh, and it was just heavenly. And then I got up the next day and carried on with my life. About 2 years later, on December the 27th, I'm on the computer and I'm looking at another man from India, and I kind of was watching him and this and that. Across the bottom of the computer went these little ticker pictures of the gentleman that I saw as the Indian.
Whoa.
But he wasn't an Indian. He was just all these little pictures of Guruji going across the computer. And I looked at it like that, and then I just burst out bawling. I went, oh, that's the man that came to me a couple years ago. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So I got online to looked up his name, and there was something online that said, we'll come to give you an Atma Kriya initiation, be there on July the 7th, in the town where I was living.
What?
And so I called this person. She says, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't take it off Facebook. It's been there a whole year. I did that last year.
God, wow.
So I told her my story and how I cried and carried on and this and that. And I says, and I'll pay for you to come from the state of Washington and give me initiation into Babaji's Atma Kriya. And she did.
Mm.
And then I said, well, I'll probably never meet this Swami Vishwananda, but thank you so much for coming and sharing and doing this for me and all that. She went back home and she called me a couple weeks later. She says, guess what? Swami Vishwananda is coming to the state of Washington in 2 weeks. I'll see you.
Wow. Wow.
Then I went and I met him, and he shook my hand, said, hello, how are you? It's very nice to meet you. I got to have a private interview with him, and I said, I'm very confused because I've been following this other master now for 12 years, Satya Sai Baba, and and now you, but I know you. He says, Satya Sai Baba sent you to me. Oh, done.
Wow.
That
You felt
finished it
it.
all.
Felt that truth. Like you knew that Sai Baba has sent you because he's alive and Sai Baba is on the other side, even though he is alive, but he wanted you to have a guru.
Wanted you to have a live because he says, we just carry on from where he left off. I take over.
I love that. It's like he finished the curriculum. We're picking up at this part of the curriculum.
It's in the book. It's in the book. It's in the book.
today talk to Goose, on her path of enlightenment and being the Divine Mother.
I wanted a spiritual name, and when I went the first time I went to Germany, my friend from Washington says, "Oh, ask him for a spiritual name." So he comes out and he's walking around. He comes to me and he says, "I said, oh, Gurji, may I please have a spiritual name?" He says, "What for?" Because it changes the molecular structure of your body, and I think something. He laughed, turned and walked, and they turned around. Ma Goose. And
Oh.
she said, he just gave you your spiritual name. I went, he did? Okay. All right. So I tried to sign up for a class when I went back home there in Germany, and they said, and I put down Ma Goose as a spiritual name because they asked for it, and they emailed me back and said, we need your spiritual name, not Ma Goose. I said, well, you better speak to Swami and ask him because that's what he said. And I never heard from them again.
They never questioned it again.
No.
And you look like a mother goose. I mean, look at your beautiful white hair, like your energy is like a goose that like hugs at her babies. New
Little round glasses, little round glasses.
glasses, and your name, but your name, full name is Joanne, but Mar was that also in?
Mother Goose, they know me as, but everybody started just calling me without even knowing my spiritual name, Ma Goose. They just shortened it to Ma Goose. So that's what, you know.
Perfect. God knows what he's doing, it's like
Oh
perfect.
my. Yeah, there you go. So
Wonderful. And now you do the Atma Kriya, which is a type of Kriya that if people are interested in, they can go online and learn
yes.
about it. But it was given to Swami Vishwananda from Babaji. And so people can do that if they're called to do that. But yes, when I met Swami, I felt like, yeah, my heart was like, do, 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 do. My heart chakra had like a very strong response to him. That's always how I test people, is how my heart responds to them. It's how
Hmm.
I can tell,
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
was wonderful. And then you gave me two of his books. And so he,
Yes, and I have the books that I would
yes,
recommend
could you show
too.
the books that you would recommend for people to read? So yeah, let's hold it up a little bit more so they can see Just Love. So this is his book that I love.
There's a number of books out like this, of him, 4 or 5 different sets of them. So you can order them through the Bhakti Marga online, in Germany. And then I love the Book of the Saints.
Oh, okay. Could you hold the bottom? So who reads that? Saints of, and then who's the writer? Bhavan's Book University.
Uh, right up in here.
Right up in there. Okay, so Savitribai Hanulikam. Okay, perfect. So people, these are two books you would recommend. Because what is
Yes.
this one about? This one's about just the lives of the
One
saints.
about the saints. Now, saints were ordinary people. They weren't real high beings. They lived and had families, and everybody made fun of them, and they tried to murder some of them and get them out of the way because they weren't the way you wanted them to be. They shouldn't be that way. And the saints were just plain ordinary, like all of us have ordinary, nice lives with family and friends and this and that. The saints do too. And he talks about any saint book that you come across, if you want, pick it up because it's so nice how they were just doing their thing, doing their thing. But then they started to know that God was in everyone and treating them that way. And that's what then they became saintly,
That's the shift. Is like every day
That's it.
start to just like every morning wake up and be like, I'm gonna look for God in everyone, even if like the grumpiest, meanest, whatever.
That's it. And if you can't find him in that person, it's okay. It's all right. God loves you anyway because he made you in his image. So your image is you. My image is him. Everybody out there, that's the image of him.
I love that. Okay. That's a great practice, like to start doing every day. Because I think I
Yeah.
definitely got to sharpen up some of my spiritual skills before next week. I feel like I got to be
Well,
good.
yeah, don't look for any results because he's the one who gives the results. It's his will. I don't look for anything. I get up at 2:30 every morning and even before I knew about spiritual life, I would wake up at 3 in the morning and think, what am I waking up at 3 o'clock for? Well, I must have done this in other lives because the 3 o'clock is, okay for me. It works. And I do my Atma Kriya and an hour of Sri Vitala Giridhari Pada Brahmane Namaha. because Guruji said to do that for an hour. Well, some people can't do that. They have to go to work. I do it when I drive to work. I do it just every time I
You're
can.
chanting in the car. That's perfect. Like
Yes, yes.
I always say, matching new routines with old routines is what's going to work. So if you're already driving every day, just add the
Yeah.
mantra to the driving. Or if you're
And
washing dishes, add the audiobook to when you wash the dishes. Like combine them together.
Swami says if you're in the bathroom and you need to shut the door because the kids are yelling, shut the door and do a little bit of, your Kriya or whatever. And I do the Kriya yoga and also at night before I go to bed because I
Yeah,
like
would you mind telling us some of your practices? So you do Kriya twice a day, morning.
and night in the early morning, in the early morning. So what I do is I read the Bhagavad Gita, just a chapter. I read the Guru Gita, just a chapter, and I read the Bhagavad Gita, just a chapter. And then I do Lakita, which is the writing Om Namo Narayana of God's name. One page each night, 31 lines of Om Namo
Write them
Narayana.
at
Yes.
night.
I'm
Oh,
up to, I think I'm up to 88,000 now.
wow. So writing it has an effect as well. I didn't know that you could write the mantras like that.
He
Cool.
loves it because when you are writing his name, he's standing right there looking at you.
Ah, I love that. Like you're doing your homework. Okay, I'm gonna do my homework tonight, you know.
That's his name. And when you say his name, he's there. He has to be there. He can't be anywhere else. He has to.
Om Namo
Because
Narayana. And I love that form of God when he turns into the lion, because that's what Narayana is. And for some people that might not know, right? It's the masculine father aspect of God when he turns into this ferocious male lion. That's a
Narasimha, Narasimha.
Narashima. And
And
then,
I've had a vision of him.
ooh, tell us. Oh, wow, cool. There's so much I could talk to you, but we'll have to bring you back again in a few months.
He came to me in a beautiful vision, and I was in this room, and he came out the door as a lion. And he had this long mane on him, but he had the lion head and everything, but he danced back and forth on his four paws, back and forth, and it swayed. And I thought, well, he must have just been to the hairdresser and had his hair washed because it's so gentle. And so, and I love the Narasima in Elmira. I'm just in love with him. I tears will come to my eyes, but he's very fierce looking. He can be.
Yes.
And, it just depends on how you are on the inside or what. I had a dream one time of a fierce, ugly, almost like a dinosaur kind of a thing, animal. And he had metal petals for his skin all out. And I looked at him and I went, and he turned around. And when he turned around, he had the ugliest face you've ever seen. I said, Om Namo Narayana, and he exploded and left.
Whoa. Om Namo Narayana. That's all you said. And then that's a reptilian demon type thing, it sounds like, or like a hybrid of some sort since the
Yes,
souls are there.
yes,
But you're
yes.
saying, but I think it's because of the connection you have with Narayana, right?
Hmm, hmm.
But if people even start chanting this mantra, maybe that could also come for them that they'll connect to this aspect of the divine
Yes. And
mother.
don't look for anything to happen or, oh, I should be realized by now or this or that. It's up to the will of God whether or not he looks at everything we do and everything in our heart. I have no idea what I've done before or whatever, but these things just happen now. They just happen.
That's
And
so important.
yeah, and my visions now, almost every day for years here, I have a vision of a deity, a darshan, they call it, of a deity. I've seen them in the sand, I've seen them in caves, I see them in temples, thousands of them in temples, or they just appear. I have no idea why.
So you're seeing deities and you're seeing them in different locations on the planet. Does it look like it's on the planet or somewhere
It
else?
is, no, it's on the planet. It's on the planet because it's been in mountains, it's been in the desert like Egypt. And it's in India too. They have lots of soligrams,
Ooh,
little rocks that are Narayana, and
ooh.
they're found in Nepal in some sort of a stream there where they usually come.
Like, is
And
that not the Shiva ones, right? These are different rocks, not
I
the
I don't know. I mean, they're soligrams. They could be in the form of Shiva, I'm sure. They're just little round,
Little rocks. Oh,
black, kind of rock kind of things. You have to get online, I guess, and look up soligrams. And they have them in Elmira. They have almost 3,000 now. And they paint on them little faces that are like quite ugly, I think. But but they are God. They are the God. And so if you have been given a saligram, you have to do a puja to it every single day.
oh,
So there's a lot of work to the soligrams. But
they have energy, I'm sure, if they don't
I
do that.
have seen them in the deserts, in the ocean, in forests, and in temples all over the wherever. I don't know where they are, but I see them and
Wow.
am shown them. Uh-huh.
Wow.
Hmm.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. And so I love this. Like, yeah, see, this you're so interesting. This is why kids love you because it's so interesting for me to talk to you. Kids love talking to you. And so could you share with us just like a last message that you want people, like if they remember
Sure.
nothing else from this talk, what would you like them to know about like, anything, God or anything else you
The
feel that?
great divine director is in every single thing, and he is in everything in your life. He has put you where you need to be, and he wants you to be there. But if you need to get out of it, it's perfectly all right. If I need to divorce this man or this woman, or I can't stand being around here another minute, you need to move on then and not feel guilty about it. Just know that the time has come for the change for you, or to be able to see your family and friends who don't believe in what I believe in. Oh boy, no way. But they are tolerant of me now. They're very nice. They're respectful now, not making fun of me or anything like that anymore, which they were doing. But it's your daily life going to the grocery store. I see these people, they don't have a smile on their face. And I'm thinking, oh, come on. And I just smile. And then all of a sudden they'll smile back
Ah,
because their heart catches it. It's a heart to heart thing for you out there in the world, having your adventure on planet Earth. Jay Radev.
I love that. Jay Gurudev, Jay Gurudev. Thank
Or
you.
namaste, whatever,
Yes,
whatever.
namaste. Or we honor all of you. We honor you, Ma Goose, for coming and sharing all these sacred experiences. I'm sure people are gonna feel the energy of it, and I know it's gonna inspire them in the exact way that God wants them to be inspired. And we'll have you
Go
come
out,
back again.
go out into the world. Take that challenge and that adventure. It's an adventure.
Yes,
Woo.
yes. Love it. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Take
much.
care, Dan.